She called me sister. She cooked in my kitchen, played with my child, and told me how lucky I was to have such a good man. But what I didn't know was that the same woman calling me sister was also the one sleeping beside my husband. They say betrayal hurts most when it comes from someone you trust. But nothing could have prepared me for how far this betrayal went, how deep the lies ran, and how close to home the enemy had been all along. Before we dig deep into this shocking story, kindly hit the like button, subscribe, and turn on your notification bell so you never miss real stories that reveal the darkest truths and biggest betrayals. But first tell us, where are you watching from? I love seeing people from all over the world join in to share their thoughts after each story, because this is the story of how my sister in heart became the woman who nearly destroyed my home. Amaka met Chinelo at the community market in the heat of an oily noon. Chinelo had a calm voice and a laugh that made people tell her their troubles. They started sharing rides home, then recipes, then secrets. Chinelo would lean across Amaka's kitchen table and call her sister in a way that made Amaka feel seen. She was easy to love. Amaka's life had never been simple. She held 2 jobs, daytime at a clinic, evenings at a school, and raised her 8-year-old son, Toby, after his father left years before. Daniel, Amaka's husband, had come into their lives like a small miracle. Steady work at a logistics firm, a soft hand with Toby, the kind of man who remembered birthdays and fixed sinks. He married Amaka quietly, promising a new kind of safety. To everyone else, it looked like a family stitched back together after the worst. Chinelo watched them the way people watch a slow bloom. She brought cakes, stayed for soup, cried when Amaka cried. She came to family dinners so often she had her own chair. Nothing seemed wrong until it did. It was the little things that started the uneasy feeling. A text left open on Daniel's phone that blinked with a nickname Amaka didn't know. Clothes with perfume that wasn't hers. A laugh that stopped when she walked into the room. She told herself she was being silly. Work had her exhausted. She had no time for jealousy. One night, Amaka came home early from an extra shift. Rain thrummed against the windows. The living room light was dim. Daniel's shoes were by the door. He stood at the sink, wet hair, a towel around his shoulders. She thought for a ridiculous moment that he might finally tell her. Anything that could explain the coldness between them. Instead, he kissed her forehead in the way he always had and said, "I need to get to an urgent meeting." He left in a rush, forgetting his keys on the table. When Amaka picked them up, her fingers grazed a business card tucked beneath the ashtray. The card simply read Chinelo Visuals with a phone number. A knot tightened in her chest. Amaka should have confronted him. She should have called the number, demanding truth. But the next morning all she could do was go to work, smile at patients, and hold Toby's hand on the way to school. The knot grew into a bruise. That weekend, Chinelo came over with a lasagna and a story about a client who needed photos. They talked and laughed. Amaka's stomach felt like a lead weight. Later, when Chinelo helped Toby with homework, she whispered, "You're tired. Amaka, you need rest." The whisper felt like both a comfort and a threat. A few days later, Amaka found messages on a shared family tablet, messages that had been erased from her husband's phone but mirrored on a backup account Daniel had set up for the family. The messages were short, intimate, full of the small, cruel details that make betrayal sharp. "Come over when the traffic clears. I miss you. Stop being so dramatic. Love." They used a pet name Amaka had never heard. The timestamp matched nights Daniel claimed to be working late. Amaka's hands trembled. She printed the messages and hid the paper in a drawer so she would have proof when she needed courage. Amaka did something she had never done before she started to watch. Not stalking. She told herself it was repair work. She asked Daniel about meetings, scanned calls, and learned his schedule down to the minute. She pretended to be calm when he left, then sat with the door slightly open until she heard the car start. One evening, Daniel said he would be late, that a delivery route had gone wrong. He left with a kiss like a bandage. Amaka called Chinelo. Chinelo picked up immediately. Her voice was warm, so warm Amaka could feel it through the phone. "Hey, sis! Want to come by? I'm making stew." "I'll be there," Amaka said, her voice flat. She walked to Chinelo's house, the rain having stopped, and every sound in the street felt like a footstep following her. Chinelo's door opened before she knocked. They hugged. Chinello's embrace smelled of cloves and something else, Daniel's cologne. Amaka felt sick. They made tea. Toby watched cartoons in the next room. Conversation flowed easy until Chinello excused herself to freshen up. Amaka seized the moment and followed. In Chinello's small bathroom, Amaka saw the towel hanging there, Daniel's towel. The pattern was the same as the one Daniel used. The evidence was ridiculous and private, yet undeniable. Amaka left silently, the stew cooling on the stove. She wanted to explode. She wanted to throw the printed messages across the table and watch their marriage burn. But instead, she decided to ask questions like a surgeon, precise, slow, impossible to deny. That night she showed Daniel the printed messages. He took them, stared like a man seeing himself in a mirror for the first time. His face did something Amaka had never seen. It folded in on itself. "I can explain," he said, voice small. "It isn't what you think." "Then tell me," Amaka replied, and kept her voice steady, even though her heart was pounding like a prisoner. "Who is she?" He named Chinello. Amaka felt something break inside, an old bone snapping. She watched him for a confession, for apology, for shame. He offered a clumsy mixture of both. "It started as a comfort," he said. She listened. "You were always tired. I didn't mean for it to—" "You were sleeping with my friend," Amaka said. The words slid out like stones. Daniel's eyes filled. "I'm sorry." Sorry, the single word landed in the room like a verdict. It was too small for everything it had to mean. Amaka left their shared bedroom and slept on the living room sofa, with Toby curled against her leg, a small island of warmth. She didn't tell Toby everything. What child needs to carry the knowledge that his father lied about his mother's friend? But the house felt thick with unsaid things. She moved like a ghost through the rooms, watching Daniel arrange his life around them as if nothing had changed. Days passed with the same pattern, Daniel apologizing, Chinello texting with little apologies disguised as jokes, Amaka smiling at the market like someone performing a role in a play. The neighborhood had seen them as friends. As family, they had no idea of the fissure under the surface. Amaka tried to imagine the why. Was it loneliness, a midlife wound, or cruelty dressed as convenience? She found no satisfying answer. She saw only choices made. The hardest thing was that Daniel kept moving in two directions. He told friends the affair was over. He said he loved Amaka. He bought small gifts and left them on the kitchen counter with notes, for better days. He even went to counseling once. Sat across from a therapist with a stooped apology and promises to be better. But then Amaka found something else, a bank transfer. Small at first, then larger. From Daniel to a different account. She matched dates and amounts to late night. Dinners and flowers on Chinello's doorstep. She traced a receipt for a ring bought in installments, an expensive piece that had appeared around the same time. Daniel's attentions to Chinello became more intense. Documentation is a cruel light. It reveals arrangement when hearts want to hide. With proof in hand, Amaka felt both fury and a bleak relief. She was not mad at an idea. She was mad at evidence. On a scorching Sunday, when the air in the house felt close enough to cut, Amaka invited Chinello for tea. She set Toby's favorite cups on the table and made sure he was at a friend's house, so the talk could be adult, raw, honest. When Chinello arrived, she sat across from Amaka and reached for her hand. "Sister," she said. Amaka didn't take the hand. "I know," she said simply. Chinello's face shifted through flavors, shock, guilt, then a cold clarity. She did not deny it. "I loved him," she said. "It wasn't meant to hurt you." "How long?" Amaka asked. 18 months. 18 months. The number felt like a wall built between the two women. Chinello started to cry then. Not the small, comforting tears that had made Amaka trust her, but bitter ones that tasted of self-pity. "You ruined my family," Amaka said, but she did not scream. Her voice was the voice of someone naming facts, not pleading. "I know," Chinello whispered. "You called me sister," Amaka said. "You prayed with me at my mother's funeral. You watched Toby when I worked nights." "I know," Chinello repeated, and this time the words carried no salvation. The confrontation did not explode. It crystallized. Chinello spoke about loneliness and Daniel's attention when Amaka worked late. Daniel later admitted that he had felt unseen, and that seeing Chinello as a friend had blurred into more. Their excuses were small compared to the damage. Love is not a coin to be spent twice without leaving a mark. Amaka did not throw Daniel out immediately. She could not make a choice that big without thinking about Toby, about finances, about the quieter violence of uprooting a child. She set conditions, counseling, honesty, and a slow rebuilding of boundaries. Daniel agreed, petulant and penitent. But something had changed irrevocably. The way Daniel looked at Amaka was different. Not lust, not even tenderness, but something like shame. He tried to be better. He took therapy seriously, sat in rooms and explained his fear. He cleaned, brought groceries, and put Toby to bed. These acts mattered, but they could not unclench the fists inside Amaka's chest. Chinello moved away a month later. She found a job in another town and announced, through a mutual friend, that she needed space to find herself. The town was small. People talked. Amaka heard details she did not want. Chinello's new life. The man she began dating afterwards. The way she'd told friends she still loved Daniel. Rumors turned the wound into something public. People picked sides. Some called Amaka weak for staying. Some called her forgiving for trying. It was an odd feeling, being both judged and pitied in equal measure. Months stretched. The house settled into a new rhythm, less laughter, more quiet. Daniel stayed. He worked. Toby grew, blissfully unaware of how fragile the adults around him had been. Amaka kept a journal, pouring out the words she could not say aloud. She wrote of the nights she woke with panic, of the ordinary days that felt like small victories, of the way Toby's head fit into her shoulder like a perfect small map. She wrote of Chinello, of the person she had loved and needed, and who had betrayed her. She wrote of how betrayal is a thing that is both public and intimately private. It is a newspaper headline that lives in your ribcage. In time, the rage smoothed into a quieter grief. The anger did not vanish so much as redirect toward herself for what she felt she had missed, toward Daniel for the choices he made, toward Chinello for the deception. She forgave on paper first, then in small ways that mattered. She let herself cook Chinello's favorite stew once and not taste bitterness. Forgiveness was not a triangle to be completed. It was an iron being softened. Years later, Amaka would tell the story differently depending on the room. To friends she would say simply, "I was hurt. I survived." To Toby, when he asked why two people didn't live together anymore, she told the truth in a way that would not damage a child. Some grown-ups make bad choices. Chinello and Amaka never rebuilt the closeness they once had. The word sister lost its easy warmth. But Amaka learned to reserve the word for herself. She became her own sister in the way she protected herself, loved herself, and taught Toby how to treat his heart. She also learned how to listen for the small warning sounds of an unanswered call, a hidden receipt, and to trust the bruise in her chest when it told her something was wrong. She learned how to make a house where fewer secrets could live. One night, years after the first discovery, Daniel came home with a notebook. He had written letters, notes of apology, promises, small catalogues of how he would be better. He placed them on Amaka's pillow like raw, fragile offerings. She read them, then set the notebook down. "Actions," she said, "are louder than words." He nodded. They were both older in some hard, useful ways. They kept the marriage, not because it was perfect, but because the child they raised needed them whole, and because some promises were rebuilt slowly, brick by deliberate brick. Amaka never called Chinello sister again, but she kept one line of the old script. When you call someone sister, you are giving them part of your life. She learned to give that part to people who would guard it, not squander it. Sometimes the deepest betrayals don't come from strangers. They come from the people who call us family. Amaka learned the hard way that love, without honesty, is just a trap, waiting for spring. But she also learned that forgiveness isn't about letting others off the hook. It's about freeing yourself to heal and move forward. If you've ever been betrayed by someone you trusted, remember your peace is the most powerful revenge. Before you go, tell me in the comments what would you have done if you were Amaka. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe for more real stories that expose the darkest truths and deepest betrayals. Until next time, stay strong and stay aware.